This is the voice of the Cleveland Monsters, Tony Brown, and you're listening to Sports on Tap.
You're listening to Sports on Tap, presented by RRT Productions. Here are your hosts, Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
Welcome to Sports on Tap. It's our Week 6 game recaps in high school football. I'm Rob Troutman. We have Josh Jeffy, Edick, and Sean Duffy.
Yo.
Live from Studio J. And guys, Week 6 in the books. And it was a fun week, Week 6. And I can't believe Week 6 is done, and we're going to be moving on to Week 7 here later on in the show. But, guys, how's everybody doing tonight?
Well, Rob, I'm doing pretty good, except for the fact that this is the first time all year my allergies have taken a hold of my sinus. So if I sound a little nasally and a little,
because he's a nerd.
It's because I am. So I apologize in advance if you hear sniffling, coughing, sneezing, so on and so forth.
Diarrhea, upset stomach.
Wrong
commercial.
Ed, how you doing, buddy? We want to welcome Ed in, and he's on the RRT Productions hotline, and he's getting ready to talk little Great Lakes action.
Yeah, sounds like I'm doing slightly better than that of Mr. Jeffy over there.
Yes, you are. Yes.
And my bout with stomach issues a couple of weeks ago, and came out decently all right. So, but ready to roll for Week 6. So we'll get right into it here for the Great Lakes Conference. Rocky River, 3-2 overall, 2-2 in the conference. They hosted Talmadge in their final non-conference game of the year. The Pirates jumped out to a 23-0 first quarter lead behind 2 touchdowns from Christian Bean, one from 65 yards out on a touchdown reception, and a 40-yard pick six. Talmadge cut the lead to 30-14 at the half, but Coach Josh Walls' Pirates hold on for a 30-22 victory over Talmadge in their final non-conference game of the year. Talmadge drops to 1-5 overall. They will resume Suburban League American Division play against Kent Roosevelt in Week 7. Rocky River improves to 4-2 overall, 2-2 in the conference. They will resume GLC action against Parma. Parma came into this game. Parma took on Normandy. Both teams winless in the GLC. The Redmen jumped all over the Invaders. They cruised to a 40-6 victory. Unfortunately for Normandy, this just doesn't appear to be their year. They've had their struggles, and Parma took full advantage of it. Parma picks up their first conference win. They will host Rocky River in Week 6. Normandy remains winless in 6 games. They will host Bay on Thursday night. Big game. One of the 2 big games that happened in the conference. The other one being our SOT podcast game of the week. But this game saw Parma Heights Holy Name 4-1 overall, undefeated in the conference. They traveled to Bay 4-1 overall, 3-1 in the conference, in a highly anticipated GLC battle with both conference and playoff positioning on the line. The Green Wave stunned the Rockets with an 85-yard kickoff return deep into Bay territory by Eric Jones Jr. Robert Sherrod then punched it in from 2 yards out for a quick Holy Name lead. Holy Name scored twice more, a 21-yard field goal by Jonathan Stanislow and a touchdown from a blocked punt by Joshua Tate, recovered by Sean Erbar. Holy Name's defense lived up to its reputation. They held Bay to just 120 yards of offense. The Green Wave win 26-7. Robert Sherrod rushed 25 times for 124 yards and a touchdown, and quarterback Nicholas McCreary completed 8 of 13 passing for 53 yards and a score. Holy Name improves to 5-1 overall, 4-0 in the conference. They will host a Buckeye in Week 6.
Big game.
Major game. Well, Bay falls to 4-2 overall. They are 3-2 in the conference. They will travel to Byers to play Normandy. My last game of the week, due to the fact that the SOT, that the big gentleman that very loosely were at our other game. Medina Buckeyes, 4-1 overall, hosted Fairview. This was a old Patriot Athletic Conference league game. The Bucks and Warriors at first traded scores in the first quarter. Buckeye took over with a touchdown run by Ben Barnes and a 15-yard touchdown pass from Jacob Durkee to Griffin Mitchell. Warriors running back Marty Raher caught the second of two touchdown passes from quarterback Declan Jewett. This one from 22 yards out. The score was 28-13. Buckeye runs off the next 21 points. They win 49-13. Quarterback Jacob Durkee, he rushed 21 times for 148 yards and a touchdown. He also completed 3 of 4 passes for 92 yards and a touchdown. Durkee surpassed 1,000 yards of rushing already for the season.
Wow.
Another big moment for Buckeye here. Place kicker Clay Gunkelman, he hit all 7 of his extra points. He also became the all-time leader in Medina County history for made extra points in history.
Wow.
He passed up Wadsworth's Nate Reed to that record. It was 122 or 123, and Gunkelman has far surpassed that. And I imagine he will build on that as the year progresses. So congratulations to Gunkelman for that. Another good story, Belgium exchange student Julian Close rushed 12 times for 58 yards and a touchdown. Major inclusion by the Buckeye team there. They were able to get up to a good lead, and he was a beneficiary of it. So congratulations to him. Coming over from Belgium, playing American football, he gets his first touchdown. With a win, Buckeye improves to 5-1 overall. They are 4-0 in the conference, and as Josh said, they will host Holy Name in a pivotal GLC matchup. Lots of points at stake here, and also inside positioning for the GLC title. Fairview's 2-4, and overall they are 2-2 in the conference. They will host Elyria Catholic. The coach of the week for the GLC, as you saw in the G&G Fitness Center or Fitness Equipment, coach's full of the week was Dan Wondolowski from Holy Name. The player of the week is Kristen Dean from Rocky River with his performance and their victory over Talmadge. So congratulations to Kristen Dean from Rocky River and Dan Wondolowski from Holy Name for their accomplishments this week in the GLC.
Well, nice work, Ed. I think looking at the standings, like you said, Holy Name and Buckeye are going to match up, and I think that's going to be a good one to really keep your eye on to see, is Buckeye going to go and play well against Holy Name and dominate that game, or is Holy Name going to give them a fight? Because it seems like Buckeye has really rolled in their new conference so far, and Holy Name is having a great year so far. So let's see what happens there.
Absolutely. I mean, the three of the top teams in the conference from last year, Bay, Elyria Catholic, and Valley Forge, Buckeyes played them already, and they've defeated each and every one of them. Holy Name, this will be one of their toughest tests of the conference season. They did get a good victory over Rocky River earlier in the season. They got their win over Bay here, but they're going to have Buckeye and Elyria Catholic back-to-back, and Valley Forge for that matter. So they have their own three-week gauntlet, if you will. So we'll see how Holy Name can hold up after that as well, and it starts with the big game against Buckeye. If Buckeye wants to win the conference in their first year, this will be the big game they need to win, because looking at the rest of the schedule for Buckeye, they got Normandy, they got Rocky River at home, and then they will travel to Parma again for a game against Parma. So a couple of potential wins out there, just based on what I'm looking at from the schedule. Holy Name, obviously, they're not going to look ahead of Holy Name. This is going to be probably one of the biggest regular season games in a couple of years. They've always needed to beat Black River for the PAC.
Yep.
In past years, that's been their biggest game. I would say so far they've had 3 of those with Elyria Catholic, Valley Forge, and Bay, as far as like big conference games that they need to get up for. And they've shown that they have the ability to do that. For Holy Name, same deal here. This is one of their first years of very good success in this conference, and we'll see if they can survive Buckeye, then EC, and then Valley Forge. These are lots of play. We had 4 playoff teams in this conference last year, and that was before Buckeye joined, because Buckeye gives them a 5th. So none of these teams are strangers to Week 11. And as we talked about before, Rob and Josh and Sean, this conference is shaping up a lot like the Southwestern Conference, where you've seen a lot of teams being able to beat each other. And you have a couple of top tiers that are going to play each other. They're finally going to play each other, and we'll see what shakes out. Obviously, later in the show, we'll go over Labor Day Catholic versus Valley Forge. That was our SOT podcast game of the week.
Yep.
Great coverage by the guys as always for that specific game. And I believe I'm not sure if you guys have talked about it off the air or not, but I'm thinking maybe next week or so we start really getting some playoff points.
Yeah.
Yeah, next week we'll really we'll lean on our guy Joe Idle and joeidle.com for the updated rankings, unofficial rankings, but pretty close to official rankings. We'll start going over those as well for all of our conference teams.
Yeah, maybe we'll try to get him on once again. He's always a great guest to have on our show, and he does a great job really breaking it down with his website. I mean, the points and how he figures that out before anybody else. It's really amazing how he does it.
I like how he's. I do like in recent years he's added the last time a team has made the playoffs. So if you're looking at his website, you're getting a bunch of it. You're getting great information, and you're able to also easily see that when a team hasn't gotten there or they're really close to it, you tell how big it is for that program. They haven't been in the playoffs in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. How close they are, and if you're just a fan of high school football and you just like digesting all this data and information, that's if nothing else they could give you maybe an underdog to root for. If you see a team is maybe in the 9, 10, 11 spot and they haven't made the playoffs in 5 or 10 years, you want to see if they can get into the playoffs based on who they're playing. So, great information by Joe Idle as always.
Well, Ed, great job covering the Great Lakes Conference. It's a fun conference. I'm glad we're really covering it because it's going to be tough, and we'll see how Buckeye does this upcoming week against Holy Name, among other teams. A lot of good teams in that conference, and it'll be fun to see what they do.
Absolutely. And just I'll give a quick teaser for one of Josh's games. I think I said last week, if you paid to watch a Brunswick football game for the last 2 weeks, you really got your money's worth. Hard-hitting, very close games. If you did the same for this game, you would also have seen a very close game come down to the end for the Blue Devils and the Red Raiders. So I'll simply leave it at that. Going into a very, very large game against the number 1 team in the state.
yeah, they have their hands full. But you know what? It's fun to see, Brunswick having a successful season. I think you're seeing alumni and a lot of fan support. We see it on social media and all over the place. There's a lot of Brunswick fans out there, and when you see them where you remember how they were just a successful football program, it's kind of fun to see a lot, and with a lot of these conferences and other teams. But us being from Brunswick, it's kind of fun to see. So, can't wait for Josh to give that recap and talk a little bit about it.
Absolutely. So if nothing else, great games coming from the GLC. Great coverage as always, guys. And looking forward to Week 7 games and talking about, obviously all the games, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to shake out with Buckeye and Holy Name in Week 7.
Well, Ed, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll talk to you for Week 7 next week.
Sounds good. Great show, guys. Keep it up, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, that's our own Ed Dick covering the Great Lakes Conference, and he does a great job there covering all kinds of talent in the Great Lakes Conference. But right now, let's go over to Josh. Jeffy, he covers the Greater Cleveland Conference, and some big games you had on your slate for Week 6.
Yeah, we're going to start off in Elyria where Medina snapped a 2-game losing streak with a 56-20 victory over the Pioneers. They were led in the first half by Jawan Jackson, who was all over the place. He had a 41-yard pick six, and then he also returned a 75-yard punt. He returned a punt 75 yards for a touchdown. At the half, Medina had to leave 28-6. In this one for Medina, quarterback Ryan Gillespie had a total of 218 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. Elyria was without head coach Delvin Culver. He had an appendectomy. So that, along with the tough Medina offense, they were not able to overcome the high-powered B attack, but they were led by a Davian Drummer. He had 3 TDs, including a 100-yard pick six in this one.
Wow.
But it was not enough. Once again, Medina 56-20 over Elyria. Medina improves to 4-2. They get their first conference victory. Elyria drops to 1-5. They are 0-3 in the conference. Euclid with a tough win against Strongsville, 21-14. They were led by running back Jabir Mujihad with 2 touchdowns two touchdowns early on, one run of 26 yards, the other run of 76 yards. He totaled 205 yards in this game. Illyria's other touchdown came from a pass from Andre Rollins to Armand Scott. That was a 76-yard TD. Euclid's defense, once again, real big plays, forced 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions to Strongsville. And this one, Strongsville was only able to get 1 touchdown and 2 field goals in this one. 2 field goals by Will Risco in this one, and they Mustangs come up with a 21-14 loss in this one. Euclid improves to 6-0. They are still undefeated in the conference at 3-0. Strongsville drops to 4-2. They are 1-2 in the conference. Menor, as Ed mentioned before, they are the number 1 team in the state. They continue to roll with a 41-7 victory over the Solon Comets. This game was pretty close up until the second quarter. It was tied 7-7. Then Menor went on its merry way, scoring 34 unanswered points. They were led by running back Ryan Coughlin, 108 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ian Kipp, quarterback for the Cardinals, added 69 rushing yards and a TD. He was 20 of 28 passing for 168 yards and a touchdown. Menor stays undefeated on the year, 6-0 overall, 3-0 in the conference. Solon drops to 4-2. They are 2-1 in the conference. In the game Ed was talking about, another close game for the Blue Devils, and once again the defense comes out on top, saves the game for the Blue Devils. Brunswick escapes with a 21-18 victory. Again, another tough game for the Blue Devils. Shaker actually outgained Brunswick in the first half, 191 yards to 76 for the game. Shaker had more yards, out-yarded the Blue Devils 364 yards to 230. This game was actually 10-6 at the half with Brunswick leading. We cannot mention that for Brunswick, Justin Hagler with a 20-yard field goal that opened up the second half. We always got to mention the kickers for Ed.
Have to.
Later in the third quarter, Shakers, Jordan Fuller had a pick six, picked off Jacob Charette, 24 yards for the touchdown. The extra point was blocked. It was 13-12 at this point in the game. Shaker actually went ahead in the game after Victor Ford rushed for a 56-yard touchdown. He had a great game in this one. And after a Brunswick fumble, the Blue Devils their defense was able to force a punt with 4:28 left in the game. Jacob Charette scored from 13 yards. The 2-point conversion was good after that. Shaker, late in the game, was at the 13-yard line with 3 seconds left, and they actually had a man that got past the defense. Dakota Cochran was wide open in the end zone, was not able to haul in the pass. That essentially ended the game. Brunswick comes away with a 21-18 victory. In this one for Shaker, Victor Ford, 27 carries, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns. And for Brunswick, quarterback Jacob Charette, the passing numbers weren't there, only 32 yards passing, but were really helped the Blue Devils on offense was his 117 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns for the Blue Devils. Brunswick improves to 5-1, 2-1 in the conference. Shaker drops to 1-5. They are still winless in the conference at 0-3. For Week 6, as you saw on the Twitter poll, the G&G Fitness Coach of the Week poll, I chose Steve Trevisano as my nominee. The reason why I picked him, they dominated Solon, avenging their loss to the Comets last year. For my Player of the Week nominee, our RT Productions Player of the Week nominee, which the poll will be going on right after the show here tonight, it's going to go to Euclid running back Jabir Mujihad with 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a big-time victory over Strongsville to remain tied with Menor for the conference lead. The next week's schedule, Week 7, goes as follows. Brunswick will travel to Menor. Shaker will travel to Elyria. Strongsville goes down I-71 to Medina. And Solon will play its longtime rival Euclid. And, Rob, that about wraps it up for Week 6 in the GCC, unless any of you have any thoughts, questions, or opinions.
Well, you know, I was...
Not that it matters, but it's okay.
I was surprised, Menor and Solon... It shows you just how good Menor is, top to bottom. And Steve Trevisano's last year as head coach, and he's done such a great job with that program from top to bottom. It's unbelievable that they're having their way this year. I mean, when you start off the year beating St. Ed's and St. Ignatius, I think that kind of tells you the direction you're going to be going this year. And taking it in the Greater Cleveland Conference, Brunswick plays them coming up this week. They had a nice win against Shaker. And Shaker, their record is 1-5, but, they've had some really close games that they just couldn't pull out so far this season. And for Brunswick, those games they're able to pull out this year, and I think they grew from last year, having a tough season. Coach Pinzoni really has that team believing in themselves now. Obviously, after that North Royalton game, I think you saw – a lot of the players really believe a little more in what he was teaching. But Strongsville, a tough loss to Euclid, but Euclid's a good team. Whether they're on the road or at home, they seem to always know how to get the job done there.
You wonder if, looking at this Menor-Brunswick game coming up, possible area where a letdown comes in. Menor-Solon's got a lot of juice. It's got a lot of juice no matter the outcome. No matter, it's still an emotional game. It's one you circle on the calendar every year. Everyone talks about it. Menor-Solon, from a public school standpoint, is as big for some out in the eastern part of the county and everything, just like Ignatius and Ed's is, and it's a bit of rivalry. So, is it possible that we can see maybe not a complete letdown, but enough to where, a dangerous team like a Brunswick, if they get some momentum, and they got some big old hog mollies on the offensive and defensive line, that could cause some problems for Menor. I'm not going to go ahead and predict the upset, but I would be on, perhaps upset kind of alert in that game, because this is a dangerous Brunswick team, in my opinion. They are.
It is, but Coach Triv, I don't know if he's going to have this team. They're always ready.
They're very much battle tested, and it seems like this year, this Menor squad, really last year's defeat in the playoffs has really kind of left a bad taste in their mouth, and they seem to be on another level this year, and really focused on taking it game by game, and for Brunswick coming up, we all know if they want to, to take a quote from the one nature boy Ric Flair, to beat the man, to be the man, you got to beat the man, and that's kind of the philosophy with the GCC teams. Menor is the man per se, and if you want to be that man, you got to beat them. And so far this year, no one has really come close, with the exception of the two, private schools in the beginning of the year, and the football team from Ontario. Other than that, so far the GCC, the Cardinals have been running roughshod, so Brunswick's going to have to be on their game. They're not going to be able to make the mental mistakes like, the pick sixes from Charette. They're not going to be able to do that against Menor. We saw the game versus Solon. That game was tied up until the second quarter. Then Menor rallied with 34 unanswered points, and that's the kind of high-octane offense that they have, and the big playmaking ability they have. And So that's going to be a tough game. You know, we'll see. Until Menor has some competition in the GCC, I'm going to go with them all the way, and that's not going against, you know, my alma mater or anything like that, but I just call it how I see it. Euclid, on the other hand, is still rolling along. They're getting the job done, playing great defense and running the ball with Jabir Mujihad. I mean, he's doing a great job this year, constantly around that 200-yard-a-game mark for him. He's their workhorse, and these two teams are real fighting. Now, you mentioned Menor. They do have Brunswick, and then next week they have Shaker, then Euclid. You know, Shaker played Menor a little tough last year. That could be a kind of all right, maybe look past game. Shaker's not having that good of a year. So it's going to be interesting, and we can't forget about the other teams that are right there. Elyria is having a down year. They're towards the bottom, but there's a big mix. Medina, Strongsville, Solon,
Brunswick.
You know, Brunswick's in that kind of that middle tier too.
They've only lost one game this year.
And they're all fighting for playoff positioning right now, playoff points.
You know, I think if a team wants to beat a good Menor, I think you need ball control with them. I mean, they put up a lot of points, and they can put them up really quick. If you get an established drive and go down and score, keep their offense off the field because, I mean, they have a great defense. I mean, that's the other thing. But I feel like if you have ball control, you can work a little bit of a drive. You know, maybe you can get the game into your hands instead of every team they play. You know, Menor likes to move up and down the field, and they do it quick hitters. So keep that offense off the field and see what happens. But you got to establish those drives, and Menor's defense might not let that happen. But we'll see what happens as the Greater Cleveland Conference rolls along here in Week 7. Great job, Josh. Right now, what we're going to do is step away. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get into the Southwestern Conference and the Suburban League in their Week 6 game recaps all coming up. And we have much, much more coming up on the show. All right, we're Sports on Tap. We'll be right back after a brief message from some of our sponsors.
Why do you exercise? To look better? To feel better? To drop a few pounds? To train for an event? To defy age? Or to keep your ability to say yes to the things you love to do? Whatever motivates you, G&G Fitness Equipment is here to get you there. Treadmills, ellipticals, rowers, bikes, home gyms, and accessories. We'll pair you with the right equipment, teach you how to use it, and be there every step of your fitness journey. G&G Fitness. Your goal is our goal.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap. No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Okay, you want to support a great local store that supports Cleveland and Ohio sports. GV Artwork and Design has the best stylish sports apparel, whether it's Cleveland sports, college gear, I've seen high school gear, your favorite sports teams, not just Cleveland, they have it all. Now, a special offer for Sports on Tap listeners. Use the code ONTAP10 and receive 10% off your full order. Go to gvartwork.com. That's gvartwork.com. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind.
Hi, Mike Emmerich from the NHL on NBC. For the best coverage of the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, listen to Sports on Tap.
What?
And welcome back to Sports on Tap. It's our Ohio High School football coverage Week 6 game recaps. I'm Rob Troutman. We have Josh Jeffy. We had Ed Dick with the Great Lakes Conference, and we also had Josh doing the Greater Cleveland Conference. I want to remind you, this podcast will be archived on our website, which is sportsontappodcast.com. We have all of our stories. We have photos on there, videos, and a lot of our high school football coverage on our website at sportsontappodcast.com. On game day, you can go to our Twitter page at SOT Podcast and follow us there for videos, photos. Use the hashtag SOT HSF. We're also on Instagram and Facebook as well. If you want to listen to more of these archive podcasts, it's on iTunes and YouTube as well.
And if you're a statistician, photographer, athletic director, want to get your stats, want to get the names right, want to get everything right, go ahead and reach out to us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. We promise we'll do our best to get all of your media, your stats, your pictures, your videos up on our website, promoting your business as well. Please reach out, sportsontappodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. And that does help greatly with our show to make sure we have the right names. And also stats. You know, I know a lot of players and coaches and parents that like to hear, how certain players do. So it always helps to have the stats. And I know Olmsted Falls, they do a great job sending me their stats, among other teams. Fairview sends them every week.
Met a very nice gentleman at this week's game at Elyria Catholic who was very interested in our podcast, and he takes pictures for Elyria Catholic.
Very nice. Well, yeah, we'll definitely he wants to post some photos on our website. It definitely helps, and David Sands Photography at Elyria Catholic does a great job with the photography, and we'll see if we can get some more photos from all over the place. Olmsted Falls has some photos they put on, and a lot of people like to view those, and they're really action photos, and Julie Herzog does a great job there sending those to us.
And speaking of Olmsted Falls, Rob, can you please give us the breakdown of Week 6 in the Southwestern Conference?
Well, first we're going to start in Avon Lake. That was a perfect transition by the Duffinator.
Gotta corral you, buddy.
But Amherst and Avon Lake, and it was junior quarterback Michael Corbo for Avon Lake, taking the Shoremen to another level like he does each and every week. He connected twice to senior wide receiver Nate Sidlowski and another to junior Mitchell Fetters. Avon Lake, they led this game 28-0 at half, and the defense for the Shoremen continued their domination, shutting out the Comets in this game. The Shoremen, they win big in this game, 35-0. They improved to 5-1, 4-1 in conference as Amherst falls to 4-2, 3-2. It was Michael Corbo with another spectacular performance. He had 16 of 19 passes for 197 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Nate Sidlowski finished with 111 yards. And running backs Mason Wheeler and Gage Dusler each scored for the Shoremen. But let's give credit to the Shoremen defense. Tyler Brazina, the quarterback of Amherst, he only threw for 25 yards in the game. And for the Shoremen, they had an interception by Billy Simpson and a fumble recovery that set up an Avon Lake touchdown. Again, the final score in this game, 35-0. Avon Lake a winner versus the Comets of Amherst. Now, Westlake, they traveled to Avon, and they looked to get their first win, but the Eagles were not having it as they remained undefeated with a shutout victory over Westlake. And the Eagles, they led 21-0 after one quarter in this game as Devin Hunter, he opened up the scoring with a 4-yard touchdown run. It was Danny Zay who threw a 61-yard touchdown pass to Mitchell Duprice. Cameron Erskine returned an interception, 40 yards for a score. The final score in this game is Avon stays undefeated, 62-0. Avon improves to 6-0, 5-0 in conference as Westlake falls to 0-6, 0-5. The Lakewood Rangers, they traveled to Olmsted Falls, and Olmsted Falls, they jumped out really quick. It was 21-0 Olmsted Falls after one quarter of play before Lakewood's quarterback Milan Jackson would score on a 61-yard touchdown. It was 35-7 at half as the Bulldogs led in this game. And Olmsted Falls, they rushed for 393 yards as a team. It was Stephen Ellis. He had 7 carries for 136 yards and 3 scores. Andrew Parkowski had 8 carries for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was Luke Diekman who caught a 19-yard touchdown pass. Olmsted Falls, they stay undefeated, winning 42-14. Olmsted Falls improves to 6-0, 5-0 in conference as Lakewood falls to 0-6, 0-5. Again, Olmsted Falls a 42-14 winner. It was Midview and North Olmsted in this game, and this one was tough to find any updates, but if you want some good updates, go to Midview Athletics. It's at Midi Updates on Twitter. Want to thank them for updating their Twitter. Otherwise, there wasn't a lot on this game. And North Olmsted in this game in the first quarter, the quarter was almost over, and North Olmsted would score on a short touchdown pass that I'm going to assume was Anthony Guercio, the quarterback who does it all for North Olmsted. But then Surdok hits Brockovich for a 5-yard touchdown, and it was 7-6 Eagles as the extra point hit the upright and was no good. So a 7-6 North Olmsted here. The Eagles, they would score on 4th down on a 25-yard touchdown pass. The extra point was missed, so it was 13-6 in this game. So that kind of kept Midview in it right there. And then Surdok would answer for Midview, the quarterback there. Sophomore quarterback Ethan Surdok has done a great job. He would tie it up at 13 with a 3-yard touchdown. At half, it was 13-13, and the Eagles would lead then 20-13 as they came through to start the second half. And really, when you look at it, it went back and forth into this game until North Olmsted finally ran away with it on a 17-yard touchdown pass on 4th down, and they extended a lead 34-20 on a gutsy call there. North Olmsted, a big winner over Midview, 34-20. Midview falls to 3-3, 2-3, as North Olmsted improves their record to 4-2 overall, and a big win when you look at North Olmsted as pretty impressive win for them as they look to continue to stay in the thick of it right there in the Southwestern Conference. North Ridgeville, they're looking for their first win as they traveled to Berea Mid-Park, and this game went back and forth, but the Titans, they would catch a last-second touchdown to force overtime in this game, and the Titans, they would score first in the overtime, but the Rangers, they made a 2-point conversion. They went for a 2-point conversion to get their first win of the season, but it was the ground game for North Ridgeville that really kept them in this game. As senior quarterback Tyler Richmond, he had 300, actually for the Rangers, they had 339 total yards of offense on the ground, and Richmond himself ran for 162 yards and 2 scores. He also threw a touchdown pass, but it was senior running back Shane Swindig. He had 18 carries for 139 yards, finding the end zone twice for the North Ridgeville Rangers. And despite the 4 turnovers for the Titans, they found themselves in this game late. It was Chase Ivancic as he intercepted a Richmond pass with 33 seconds remaining to keep them in it. So the defense for Berea Mid-Park kept them in this game. And also John Lyons for Berea Mid-Park had 157 total yards. He ran for 74 yards on 16 attempts. He had 4 touchdowns in this game. And the senior captain also caught 6 passes for 83 yards and caught the tying score in the game. But it was North Ridgeville again with a big win, 41-40 in overtime. So North Ridgeville getting their first win. They're 1-5 on the year, 1-4 overall as Berea Mid-Park falls to 1-5, 1-4 overall. And the Southwestern Conference Week 7 schedule sounds like this. It's Avon Lake at 5-1, 4-1, traveling to Lakewood at 0-6, 0-5. Berea Mid-Park 1-5, 1-4, coming off their loss to North Ridgeville. They travel to Amherst, who's 4-2, 3-2 in conference. Avon, the Eagles, undefeated at 6-0, 5-0. They have a tough battle with North Olmsted as they travel to North Olmsted. North Olmsted 4-2, 4-1 in conference. And Olmsted Falls undefeated at 6-0, 5-0. They travel to Midview at 3-3, 2-3 in conference. My Southwestern Conference Coach of the Week, the G&G Fitness Coach of the Week in the poll. We had North Ridgeville's head coach Luke Durbin and his win versus Berea Mid-Park. Their first win, they gambled. They went for 2, got it, and got the win. And also my Southwestern Conference Player of the Week comes from North Ridgeville, and it's Tyler Richmond, the quarterback, as he had led their offense at 339 yards of total offense on the ground. He had 162 yards and 2 scores himself and also recorded a touchdown through the air there. So that's the Southwestern Conference for Week 6 and what they look forward to in Week 7. The standings, as you know, Avon and Olmsted Falls at the top. The Shoremen are 5-1 right there. North Olmsted and Amherst at 4-2. The Middies at 3-3. Berea Mid-Park and North Ridgeville at 1-5, and then the Lakewood Rangers and Westlake at 0-6. That's your Southwestern Conference game recaps. Now let's go over to the Suburban League and Sean Duffy. The crowd goes crazy.
The crowd goes to the bathroom. All right. Well, we'll start off Week 6 in the Suburban League. We're going to go start off in the National Division as Brecksville, they currently the only undefeated team in the National Division, the Bees, traveled to Cuyahoga Falls to take on the Black Tigers. And this game was close early on, tied up 6-6, but after that, the Bees took complete control of this and rolled to a 62-20 victory. Cuyahoga Falls falls to 2-4. 0-3 in the conference. They will host Wadsworth in Week 7. Brecksville improves to 4-2 overall, 3-0, and continue their undefeated streak in conference play. They travel to take on Twinsburg in Week 7. Speaking of Twinsburg, they welcomed North Royalton into their home stadium, and North Royalton was able to come on the road and pick up a crucial win in conference play and keep their playoff hopes playoff hopes alive, so to speak, midway through the season. North Royalton was able to kind of dominate this. There wasn't a lot of information regarding, the back and forth of the play, but from all indications on Twitter, North Royalton had a really not an easy time, but were able to be very successful in running the ball and throwing the ball with Joey Marisek. North Royalton improves to 4-2, 2-1. They will host Hudson in Week 7. Twinsburg, as I mentioned, will host Brecksville, the Bees, in Week 7. Speaking of Hudson, they were hosting Nordonia in Week 6, and Hudson quarterback Jacob Paltani was the ever-present player on on the Explorers. He's the quarterback. You would think through the air was the issue. Not this week. Jacob Peltani carried the ball 28 times, 180 yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns. This was a total team effort by all accounts, and the beneficiary of the team playing so well was Jacob Peltani. Was able to put up a very, very good performance on this game. Nordonia running back Sal Perrine had 24 carries and a touchdown himself. Billy Levac also had a passing touchdown. But the big thing here was Hudson was able to force 5 turnovers. All 5 of those turnovers leading to roughly about 21 points of actual points in the game. Hudson improves to 3-3 and 2-1 in the conference. They will travel, as I mentioned, to North Royalton, whereas Nordonia falls to 2-4. 1-2, they will host Stowe. And Stowe and Wadsworth was the big matchup in the National Division, and it was not really a matchup at all, as the home Wadsworth Grizzlies were able to dominate the Stowe Monroe Falls Bulldogs 56-23. Wadsworth quarterback Trey Schaefer went 16 of 22, 254 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. Wadsworth running back Dom Laparo had 18 carries, 132 yards, and a touchdown. Wadsworth wide receiver, running back, whatever you want to, his jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife, Anthony Serino had 2 rushing touchdowns on the night. Stowe quarterback Owen Bainbridge finished the game 26 of 44 for 259 yards and a touchdown. Stowe falls to 4-2. They travel to take on Nordonia in Week 7. Wadsworth improves to 4-2, 2-2 in the conference. 2-1 in the conference, and they will travel to take on the Cuyahoga Falls. Moving on to the American Division, Aurora traveled into Kent Roosevelt, and it was all Aurora all night. They rode 299 yards rushing and 4 rushing touchdowns. 4 separate Greenman running backs scored for Aurora in this game. Kent Roosevelt could not get anything going against Aurora's defense, who pitched their 3rd shutout of the season. 3 of the 6 games they played, 3 teams have not been able to score on Aurora's defense. This is a great momentum builder going into a huge game next week as they will travel to take on Barberton. Roosevelt falls to 3-3, 2-1 in the conference. They will travel to take on Talmadge. Now Barberton had a game to play against Copley, and again, much like the Aurora game, it was a warm-up game to play for sure. Barberton ends up winning 38-0. Barberton completely dominated Copley, limiting them to just 53 total yards of offense, including just 5 rushing yards on the night, compared to 318 total offensive yards for Barberton. Barberton got rushing touchdowns from Cameron Macon, Nick Antonucci, Caleb Vega, and Malik Spragling. Barberton is now 5-1. They are 3-0. The big matchup, they host Aurora in Week 7. That's going to pretty much, in my opinion, determine the winner of the American Division. Copley falls to 1-5, 0-2. They travel to take on Revere. Highland, looking for their first win of the season, traveled to take on a very good Revere squad, and Highland was able to get off the schneid 16-13 in overtime. Highland quarterback Bryce Profit had a very solid game. 10 of 17, 162 yards, and a touchdown. But the big news is Highland kicker Justin Tepes, who hit a 23-yard field goal in overtime to give the Hornets their first victory of the night. This was his 3rd made field goal of the night. Revere running back Sean Slattery and Zane Lehman each had a rushing touchdown for the Minutemen, but it wasn't enough. And again, got to give some love to the kickers. Ed would appreciate that. Justin Tepes with the 23-yard game-winning field goal in overtime to get the Hornets their first victory. Revere falls to 3-3. They are 1-2 in the conference, and they will, as I mentioned, host Copley. Highland, they are now 1-5 and 1-2 in the conference. They go out of conference to face Canfield in Week 7. My non-conference game for the American Division, Ed kind of already mentioned it and kind of touched on it. Rocky River was able to pretty much dominate Talmadge from the beginning. Talmadge made a go of it. Talmadge quarterback Candazar had 2 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown, but it was just, Rocky River was just too much for Talmadge. Talmadge falls to 1-5, 0-2. on the year in the conference. They will again host Roosevelt in week 7. My coach of the week has got to go to Mike Gibbons. He's had a rough year at Highland. To get his team focused and get a win on the road at Revere in overtime. Big ups to Mike Gibbons of Highland. My player of the week, I got to give it to Hudson quarterback Jacob Paltani. When you're a quarterback and you're tucking the ball 28 times, 180 yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns, you're going to get some player of the week noms. But again, I will say this. It was a tough decision between Trey Schaefer from Wadsworth, between the Barberton defense, between the Aurora defense. It's getting tougher and tougher, and I don't like it. So I need some easier ones because it's making my job too hard. But congratulations to Mike Gibbons. You can vote for him on our GNG Fitness coaches poll, and then on the RRT Productions Player of the Week poll for Hudson quarterback Jacob Paltani, 180 yards rushing, 28 carries, and 5 touchdowns. Guys, it was a great week in the Suburban League. I think if I'm looking ahead, I'm reading the tea leaves. For the American division, it all is going to come down to Aurora at Barberton, and I wish I'm able to go to this game. Unfortunately, I won't be able to. I normally try and make it out for this particular game, but I won't be able to this week. But I mean that's going to be some. Each of these teams can put up points quickly and can also stop people from putting up points. And you got to wonder which one's going to give. I wouldn't be shocked if this was a 7-6 game. I also wouldn't be shocked if it was 42-41 going into I mean, this could go either way. I have no feel for this game. In the national division, you got to be impressed with Brecksville. I mean, look, they're 3-0 in conference play. I mean, this is a team that was 1-2 coming into conference play, and they've rattled off 3 straight wins against good teams. They beat Hudson, they beat Stowe. Really, all they have left to do is beat Wadsworth, and they take the national division. And Brecksville is slowly creeping up in the division. We're going to talk about that next week in the region rankings, but watch out for Brecksville because they're able to put up points. I mean, they put 62 on a Cuyahoga Falls team. Now, granted, Cuyahoga Falls is a little bit up and down this year, but take nothing away from the fact that they beat Hudson and Stowe already, and those are 2 big hurdles. Now, Wadsworth's a different animal. They're getting better. I mean, they hung 56 on a very good Stowe team.
Yeah, and Stowe, they lost the week before to Brecksville, right? So that's back-to-back weeks they lose, which is, you're going to see how they rebound because they were having a really good season, beating a Barberton team, I think, in week 1.
Yeah, at home.
Yeah.
Or on the road.
Yeah, they were on
Barberton,
the road.
So, yeah.
But, looking at some of these teams, like you said, Wadsworth, they lose to a really good Hudson team at Hudson. So, this conference, it's really
it's a fun conference to follow, but there's trends right now. And now, the trending for the American division it's Aurora and Barberton. The winner of this game is pretty much going to wrap up the American division. But I think it's going to come down to Brecksville versus Wadsworth at this point, unless something crazy happens.
And, isn't that a little surprising? Because,
it is.
Like last year, Brecksville was a young team trying to find their way a little bit. And this year, I think they might have surprised some people by beating a really good Stowe team and knocking off Hudson. And,
well, I mean, I think
they had some good wins this year.
They had, and, the schedule benefited them a little bit. They played. They dropped their first 2, got their first win coming into the conference play. And then you catch a couple teams coming off a big emotional victory. Hudson coming off that big emotional victory over Wadsworth, last-second field goal. And then Brecksville was ready for him. Same thing with Stowe over Hudson. I mean, it was one of those things where Stowe beating, or maybe it was Stowe after Solon. They beat Stowe, and then they beat Hudson right after that. So, again, I look at it as, Brecksville's capitalizing on their opportunity here. And they're doing very well in the national division. I think it's surprising some teams. And I think Wadsworth is going to have their hands full when they face each other later on in the year.
Well, we have still more to get to, but we're going to take a short break right now, and we'll go over the G&G Fitness Coach of the Week poll, which those were finished here tonight. We'll tell you who won that. We also will mention our Player of the Week poll that's with RRT Productions. We'll go over our Game of the Week game recap for Week 6. Which was Valley Forge and Elyria Catholic. And we'll also reveal where we'll be this Friday night. All coming up on Sports on Tap, so come on back.
Why do you exercise? To look better? To feel better? To drop a few pounds? To train for an event? To defy age? Or to keep your ability to say yes to the things you love to do? Whatever motivates you, G&G Fitness Equipment is here to get you there. Treadmills, ellipticals, rowers, bikes, home gyms, and accessories. We'll pair you with the right equipment, teach you how to use it, and be there every step of your fitness journey. G&G Fitness. Your goal is our goal.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap. No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Okay, you want to support a great local store that supports Cleveland and Ohio sports. GV Artwork and Design has the best stylish sports apparel, whether it's Cleveland sports, college gear, I've seen high school gear, your favorite sports teams, not just Cleveland, they have it all. Now, a special offer for Sports on Tap listeners. Use the code ONTAP10 and receive 10% off your full order. Go to gvartwork.com. That's gvartwork.com. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind.
Hi, Mike Emmerich from the NHL on NBC. For the best coverage of the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, listen to Sports on Tap.
And welcome back to Sports on Tap. It's our Week 6 game recaps here in high school football.
Yeah,
I want to thank everyone for joining us. I'm Rob Troutman. We have Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick. And we covered the Great Lakes Conference, the Greater Cleveland Conference, the Suburban League, the Southwestern Conference. And also want to thank Doc Emmerich there for making a promo for our show.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an
Friend of
absolute
show.
legend.
Yeah, friend of
Legend
show.
of show at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's the NHL on NBC.
He's the voice of the NHL on NBC.
Yeah, and he's done the Olympic hockey team.
Yeah.
He's done many great calls with
men's
them.
and women's. He's
I don't-
hockey.
yeah.
He does the men's and
Yeah,
women's
I think he
hockey.
does.
At least he did the last Olympics.
He's a great guy. We were really lucky to get a promo like that from him.
And he's right. for the best coverage of the GCHSHL, you got to come to us.
Wow, that was
He's not
pretty
wrong.
good.
He's not wrong.
That's pretty good. You
Everything
said that
he
quick.
says is accurate.
That was really good. He said that quick. I'm surprised, really.
I am
had
too,
to stop
actually.
in the
I was
middle
waiting
of it.
for
It's
him
a
to.
whole thing.
And to be honest with you, I don't even know if he said it right. It just sounded
Yeah,
good.
it just sounded really
there's entirely
impressive.
too many letters, is my point. And
Well-
I've made that point since we started covering them.
Well, listen, practice has started for Greater
Yeah.
Cleveland High School Hockey League, so we'll
Yeah.
be getting into that before you know it. But before we do that,
Let's get into our G&G Fitness Coach of the Week poll, Josh. And,
Dynamite drop-in, money.
And how did that poll, what did it end up there?
well, it was kind of a landslide victory this week by Sean's nominee, Mike Gibbons of Highland. He walked away with the Week 6 G&G Fitness Coach of the Week.
Swarm, Hornets, swarm.
The poll, he won 63% of the vote. Trevisano from Menor, Durbin from Ridgeville, they tied at 15%, and then Wondolowski, a holy name, finished, which I thought he should have got a lot more. So let's go, Twitter followers of Holy Name. Let's get up there and start voting for your head coach. He had a heck of a week with a big victory over Bay. So kind of surprising he only got 7% of the vote. But that's why they're polls on our Twitter page. So if you're not following Sports on Tap on Twitter, make sure you follow us at SOT Podcast. There we have, obviously, highlights of our games, live updates, videos, scores from our game of the week, and also our Coach of the Week poll and Player of the Week poll, among other things.
Speaking of Player of the Week poll, Rob, how about you recap our nominees for Player of the Week for Week 6?
And go to at SOT Podcast on Twitter and vote for our Player of the Week, which in the Great Lakes Conference was Christian Dean of Rocky River. In the Greater Cleveland Conference was Jabir Mujihad of Euclid. Southwestern Conference was Tyler Richmond of North Ridgeville. And the Suburban League, it was Jacob Paltani of Hudson.
And that poll is up live right now.
It is up right now.
That's right, folks. We do things in real time.
That's right, Sean.
Yeah, baby.
Josh Jeffy just posted that to at SOT Podcast on Twitter. So go on there and vote for our RRT Productions Player of the Week.
And make sure to follow us when you go there.
And that's up for what is it? 2 days or something?
Yeah, it'll be up hopefully until it'll be up until tomorrow around this time. We like to, once
Make
Wednesday comes around, we want to end the previous week, and then we got to look forward
We're
to
flipping the page, baby. It's Week 7.
To Week 7 for sure.
That's right. Now let's get to our Game of the Week recap. And Josh and Sean went to this game at Elyria Catholic High School where they hosted Valley Forge. The Patriots were in town. And, guys, what was the atmosphere like, when you got to this game? I mean,
rowdy.
We were talking about atmospheres and we were talking about stadiums and smells last time. Remember that?
Well, first and there was some – at Elyria Catholic, there was some awesome tailgating going on.
Yeah.
Some good grill action with some burgers and some dogs. But the one thing that truly I was noted in this game was the fact that this is the first cold weather game of the year. It was chilly. It was cloudy. It was windy. And things started off good, but as the game it was homecoming night, so as that festivities took place, it got a little windier. And you saw the cheerleaders go from their usual cheerleading garb to pants and jackets. Sidelines were sweatshirts and pants. So this is kind of the first taste of that fall-like weather that, just a week or 2 weeks before that it was, 85 degrees. So, it's a subtle reminder that weather could be a factor as we start getting into, mid to late October and November for that final stretch playoff run.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a rowdy atmosphere, Rob. Really rowdy, and it was, obviously it was homecoming for Elyria Catholic, and the homecoming queen ended up being the place kicker for the Elyria Catholic Panthers, which was kind of cool because every time she laid a kickoff, the announcer, who, by the way, has got to be one of my favorite PA announcers we've had in a while.
He did add some fire to it.
Because you could just, it sounded, and I don't know, I didn't catch his name, but at one point I look at Josh because we're both on the sideline walking around. I'm like, this guy's just talking as if he's describing the game to the guy next to him. Like, he's just like, oh, the homecoming queen's about to kick off. oh, another penalty on Elyria Catholic. Da, 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 da. You know, it was a very conversational type thing, which is really cool, and it was really, you know, something different. But he was very, very much into his Elyria Catholic Panthers, and for good reason, Josh, because it was big play after big play for Elyria Catholic.
Exactly.
I mean, I never saw a two diametrically opposed offensive schemes. Valley Forge was very much the triple option, jet sweep, kind of you got to figure out where the ball's at and then tackle. Really, you know, had to be fundamentally sound, which Elyria Catholic was for the most part. They were. But Elyria Catholic just unloaded in the air against Valley Forge. I mean, pass after pass. We had, 2 passes that were over 75 yards?
Yep.
So, or at least 75 yards. Another one that was 22 yards, and that was a really, really good pass. A bruising run, big chunk plays where Elyria Catholic was. And the game really wasn't in, you know, once we hit the third quarter, this game was running clock. I mean, because it was just every time Elyria Catholic got the ball, they would find a way. It'd be like 3rd down and 14, and they'd hit for like a 65-yard, you know, chunk play or a big touchdown pass. My hat's off to Elyria Catholic's quarterback, Nevelinsky.
Yeah, Steven Nevelinsky.
He had a fantastic night. This guy, and he hooked up with his favorite target, Connor Trockley. Thank you. Who they both connected for big touchdowns, one for 22 and I think one for 75 yards.
Yeah, the 75 was their first score.
It was like their second play from scrimmage, and it was just every time there was some sort of mismatch in the secondary for Valley Forge. They could not figure out how to keep the Elyria Catholic receivers in front of them. But also what happened was Elyria Catholic's offensive line had some big old boys on there. And they were able to keep a pretty clean pocket for Nevelinsky, who could really kind of take his time and run through progressions. And you got that time for those receivers to get behind the defensive backs.
Yeah, and on the other side of the ball for Elyria Catholic, they were able to really keep that wishbone offense in check. They had 8 guys in the box. They're basically doing man-to-man coverage and keeping an eye. Valley Forge did some good things with ball fakes and misdirection. But for the most part, Elyria Catholic's defense was on it, and they were just kind of charged up by the big plays that the offense was going about. And that was kind of my take away from the first half of that ball game was big plays.
Yeah.
That's how most of that game went down, was just big play after big play, and then the defense was able to get stopped. So, you know, from start to finish, this is truly a dominating game by Elyria Catholic. I thought, you know, we've heard all these, you know, how Valley Forge is. We've always heard how hard that offense was, but give credit to the coaches of Elyria Catholic. They came through and really scouted hard and had a great game plan to fight that offense, and Valley Forge could not do anything to score any points against them.
Well, I mean, if you look at, and you talk to any defensive coach, stopping a wishbone or really, I mean, you can run a lot of things out of a wishbone. Traditionally, you run a triple option out of there. It's all being fundamentally sound and reading your keys and knowing your responsibilities. And I think that was the key. One of the big keys for the defense was to you know, just key on their running backs and make sure they were taking the guys that they were responsible for. I was really impressed, not only offensively, but like the defensive line too was just getting such penetration, and that kills a wishbone offense. If you're trying to do misdirection and you got 2 defensive linemen in the backfield, that disrupts so much, and it creates problem and havoc. And now you're forcing to do something they didn't really seem comfortable with. I mean, they passed a little bit, but it seemed more of a desperation type pass. And you know, credit their defense because they're for Elyria Catholic, because you know, towards the end of that game they were pushing towards the goal line. They wanted this to keep going in play, and Elyria Catholic stopped them on 4th down on their 5-yard line in the 4th quarter to keep that running clock going. And again, the running clock, you know, it becomes a factor. It really does, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to stop. But at one point, it felt like in the 4th quarter that when they had the running clock, the 4th quarter actually felt like it lasted longer, because there was like 2 back-to-back fumbles on each play, which, you know, created some issues. So
yeah, it stopped the clock, and we were actually kind of joking with the back judge because the first half of the ball game was really quick.
Super quick.
The first half, we were at halftime before 8 o'clock. So it was really going fast. And then when the running clock started, things seemed to slow down.
Right.
And it seemed like the third quarter took at least 45 minutes, and that's what the back judge was talking about. But Coach Fox for Elyria Catholic had a good message to his team after the game. We'll take a listen right here. Possibly.
Maybe.
Stand by. Technical difficulties. Stand by. Here we go.
University, right? We had some struggles in the beginning. We made some dumb mistakes. But at the end of the day, right now, we have grown the way we needed to. We were in a position to get everything we wanted to. It didn't feel good the last 3 weeks. It didn't. But at the end of the day, our goal, what's our goal? We got everything in front.
So there you go. He talked about the hard work of how his team went in, and again, that was a credit to them. They had a good game plan, and his team executed that game plan, and they worked hard and got the victory.
Well, I was surprised with I thought it would be a little bit closer, especially after, the first quarter was tied at 7 apiece.
Yeah.
But Elyria Catholic, they're, like you said, Sean, their offensive line has always been very, very solid. They have big guys up there that know how to block. It's really been a good tradition for Elyria Catholic. The Panthers have always been very good at football.
And you could see that tradition.
With it.
You could really see that tradition in the kind of the hypeness of the fan base there. I mean, they were there for that game. They had a great. I mean, granted, it's homecoming. There's a lot of extra stuff going on, but I mean, you could just tell that that's a night in, night out home game at Elyria Catholic, and it's a smaller school. It's a Division IV school. It's there for, it's not, they're not bringing huge student bodies, but they're bringing quality football. I can tell you that. And, it was very impressive to see Elyria Catholic just, execute a game plan really and take advantage of what the defense gave them. Now, I will say this, that Valley Forge's offense is traditionally a hard offense to stop because it's 4 yards in a cloud of dust and it's hard to stop. And we even saw that in the third quarter. They took the opening kickoff of the second half and basically ran it down, took 5 or 6 minutes off the clock before they kicked a field goal. Now, Josh didn't understand the field goal choice, and we discussed it, and I guess maybe it was just to say, look, we can go and the more I thought about it, I understood why they did the field goal because they worked so hard to get down that area. You can't come away with no points. But again, they were down pretty big there, but again, I don't know how more demoralizing that would have been had they tried for it on fourth down. It was 4th and 8, I think, so it wasn't. I don't think it was close, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it was a pretty decent fourth down, and that's kind of when it comes to Valley Forge in this wishbone offense, and that's kind of the negative part. If they get down a lot like they did, and maybe Elyria Catholic, their game plan was big plays on offense. Because the more big plays you have, the more you score like that. And for a team with the offense like Valley Forge, they're not able to get points quickly if the defense is playing good. So those long, sustained drives are good if you have the lead or it's a close game. Right. But when you're down by, 2 or 3 touchdowns, it's not ideal. So that's why in that specific instance, when you're down, just keep going with it. You are able to get down with your offense like that. Just keep it going. But to come away, they still came away with no points in that. Or did they kick?
They kicked the field goal.
They did score the field goal. My apologies there.
But that was outside of that, their early touchdown, that was as close as they really got.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's what made it.
With the exception of the fourth quarter, but even I think the fourth quarter they had, Elyria Catholic had backups in, and they were, kind of, it wasn't, again, I say that with, there was never really any threat. Any sort of momentum that was given by Valley Forge just kind of was thwarted.
It was really the second quarter.
Yeah.
Second quarter when Elyria Catholic started, hit a couple big plays for touchdowns, and that's where it kind of went in favor of Elyria Catholic for this one.
But a great game. I mean, it was a fun atmosphere. Josh and I had a great time. I loved it because it was 5 minutes away from my house. Loved every minute of it. I didn't have to drive back from Hudson. Not that I don't enjoy going to Hudson, but it's a bit of a drive from.
That's all right. If Sean's happy, everyone's happy.
That's the way life works. If people would just understand that, things would get a lot better. So, we've recapped our Week 6 game.
Yep.
Game of the week. Guys, let's tell the folks who are waited with bated anticipation where we're going in Week 7. Where are Josh and Rob going to be in Week 7?
Well, it looks like the Greater Cleveland Conference
What?
is going to get a dose of Sports on Tap this week.
Splash of Sports on Tap?
As we travel right down the road. You know, they're not far from Studio J here.
Nope.
As
I see
we
how it
head
works.
to Medina to visit the Medina Bees as they host the Strongsville Mustangs.
Yeah,
in a big
yeah.
Greater Cleveland Conference matchup.
That's definitely a big game. Both teams are 4-2 overall. Medina got their first conference victory this past week. Strongsville lost their second. I apologize. Lost their second. They're both 1-2 in the conference, 4-2 overall. You know, this is a real big rivalry. So it's been a couple years since we've been in Medina. Last time we were there was one heck of a game between Medina and Solon. So we're looking forward to getting back there, and know it's going to be fun. We got a great following on Twitter from our Medina peeps, so we appreciate them. So we want to show them a little love by heading out to Medina Bee country.
No, don't
that
do
doesn't work. I'm
Don't
sorry.
Do it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that-
Brecksville, Broadview Heights, Bee fans.
Yeah.
I can't apologize enough for that.
Yeah.
Don't steal that.
And, hey, you know, speaking of followers, we want to say thanks to Tyler Richmond, the quarterback from North Ridgeville.
our nominee.
Yeah, he started following at SOT Podcast, just like anybody out there can follow at SOT Podcast and follow the great coverage
Tyler, get
of
to
our
bed.
podcast.
And we
Do your homework.
Well, we've already had a poll just went up a little bit ago. We have 10 votes, and
Nice.
Tyler is up early lead with 80% of the
So
votes. So he's got 8 votes.
So all of Tyler's household voted for Tyler.
Hey, I don't care how you get
You
it
know
done.
what? A vote's a vote, homie.
Now, on Twitter, I did have a question from someone out there saying, can you vote more than once? And I
don't know.
I was unable to vote.
No.
Well, that's because there's
only vote
there's
once.
voter requirements
Yeah,
if you don't
I
meet
think
any
it's
of
only
them.
once.
Yes,
Rob,
you can only
you're-
vote once
Good.
from
I like that.
every profile can only vote once.
Right.
Yes.
And Rob, you're not allowed to vote at all. We took a vote,
I know.
and you are not allowed.
Man, that's unfortunate.
I know. I fought hard for you, bro, but Josh said no, and
Josh is tough.
something
man.
about not liking you and thinking that
Yeah.
the Southwestern Conference pales in comparison to the GCC. I didn't really pay attention.
That is
Let's
fake
get
news.
it out.
He was
Fake news,
he was
my friend.
rattling on at Elyria Catholic while I'm trying to do my job and write the story, and give a context here.
Listen,
but hey, you know what?
Sean couldn't keep up with my Odell Beckham type hands in the end zone and my
Oh,
and
let me
my-
explain what happened. The ball gets overthrown, and Josh gets basically hit with it and claims that he catches it.
One bounce right into my hand.
And then all of a sudden, he takes his best Baker Mayfield, pocket present stance and just throws the ball. And from the opposite side of the end zone, I hear every bone in his shoulder and forearm
It's fake
crack.
news.
Oh, man.
They almost had to call in the ambulance because I was pretty sure his arm fell
The
off.
ambulance or wambulance?
I don't know, man, but listen.
I got a guy who comes down to the sideline one game a year,
Yep.
and this is the one he picked.
Yeah, what
and-
happened to the booth, man?
Oh, dude, it was crazy.
It was crazy in
up there. Plus, it's
Well, I forgot to say thanks to Elyria Catholic and Mr. Duffy, the
no
athletic
relation.
director.
Although he doesn't have the same name as my
Jack
dad.
Duffy, yeah, who was very nice. And
You think if my dad was running things over there, I'd be on the sideline?
no, you'd be under the stands
No,
probably.
I'd be cleaning up under the stands. Yeah, that's how that would work.
But want to thank them for all their hospitality. And we look forward to visiting the Medina Bees
That should be a good game.
this Friday. Yeah,
I
I'm
think you guys
looking
picked a
forward
good
to
one.
it. It's always fun to get there and cover games. It's a great atmosphere. And looking forward to covering some Greater Cleveland Conference football
Yes, sir.
this Friday.
But again, if you have stats, please
Yes,
send them
it
to
helps.
sportsontapodcast@gmail.com. Tell your ADs, your information guys, whatever you name me, give
Whoever.
them. Send them to us so that we have them. Pictures, we'll take pictures, videos. If we're not there, do the job for us. We'll pay you nothing. It'll be fantastic.
No, you know what you do get? You get credit, and you get a lot of people seeing your stuff.
And
so
you also get the thanks of a lazy couple of guys.
it's,
I'm one of them.
Fake news.
Yeah.
That's it. He's done.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not lazy, folks.
Go
Trust
Browns.
us on that. A lot of work goes into this show each and every week, among other things.
Rob,
So.
I'm trying to create a persona. I'm branding, bro.
All right, guys. Any last thoughts on Week 6? Week 7 coming up.
Big week for a lot of conferences.
Yeah, a lot of great games coming up, and we'll look forward to seeing and talking to everybody on Monday night. For Sean Duffy, Ed Dick, Josh Jeffy, I'm Rob Trautman. I want to thank everyone for joining us here on Sports on Tap. Have a great rest of the week, everyone. We'll see everybody Friday in Medina. See ya.
Game on!
Thanks for listening to Sports on Tap. Make sure you visit our website, www.sportsontappodcast.com. We'd also like to thank our partners, Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, home of the Barron Cup. Z's Cream and Bean, make life sweet, eat ice cream at Z's. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win, specializing in sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. And GV Artwork and Design, original and one of a kind.